the most important thing for people to realise is that the Gardaí have huge powers in relation to stopping people for the detection of drink driving now, and these powers have been expanded, particularly in the last couple of years. So really the first and foremost, most important thing to do, and if somebody were to ring me on their way to a checkpoint 100 metres ahead, would be cooperate. You have to cooperate with the guards, because the difficulty for you, if you don't, it opens you up to a whole other raft of charges that can be brought against you in respect of when you're required to give a breath sample. If you don't, there's a prosecution for failing or refusing to do it. When you're in a Garda station, if you're required to give a blood sample or a urine sample and you don't do it, then you're open to a failure or refusal charge. And the difficulty for somebody is that the penalties for failing or refusing are far worse than those if you were to go through the process and have an actual reading of alcohol in your blood or urine or breath, which would lead to a prosecution and a set level of disqualification. If you fail or refuse, you don't get that option. You go to the very highest level of disqualification, and that's what you face. So first and foremost, you have to cooperate. In every area of criminal law, ignorance of the law isn't a defence to anything anyway. The law is the law at the time of the commission of the offence. Whatever the statute is in place at that time, that's what governs it, regardless of whether you were aware of it or not. What you should do in those circumstances, in a road traffic detection or when you're with the Gardaí at the roadside, or in particular at the Garda station, you will have the option, if you're under arrest, you will be given the option as part of your rights to contact a solicitor. And you should do so, because it will very often lead you into a situation where you won't make those errors that could lead you up into further prosecutions. They may be given the option of giving a blood sample, a urine sample or a breath sample, and you should always opt for a breath sample. If it comes down to that option, you're not always given the choice, but if you are, you should opt for a breath sample. Breath testing has been provided for in the law for a long time, but it's only in the last 10 years or so that it is being utilised to the extent that it is now. And there is a benefit in that to the ordinary punter who stopped for drink driving, because the detection of level of alcohol in the breath will always be lower than the level of alcohol in the same person's blood or urine at that same point in time. The machine that they use to test breath is calibrated to reduce the readings by 17%, on average 17%. So you'll always get a lower reading from a breath sample. So if you have that option, opt for breath. You have a better chance of a lower reading and a possible lower disqualification. You can also be prosecuted without the guards actually having a technical readout of the level of alcohol in your system. So you can have a situation where somebody is observed by a Garda driving in a particular manner, and they're stopped, and the guard speaks to them, and they're taken out of the car. They are arrested for drink driving, but for whatever reason, ultimately the sample isn't taken from them within 3 hours. They can still be prosecuted, because it's what's called old drink driving prosecutions, where the guard can just simply give his evidence of your manner of driving, your demeanour, the smell of alcohol in your breath, eyes being bloodshot, speech being slurred, all of that, and you can still be prosecuted for drink driving. There is always the possibility of refuting what the guard says with regard to your demeanour. You can explain away a lot of things. You can explain away bloodshot eyes, you can explain away slurred speech. Courts are less tolerant of those kind of defences now than they would have been before. You know, go back 30, 40 years, you would have always had a raft of contested drink driving cases in court, because they were not at that stage using any kind of technical evidence. It was Garda evidence, what the guard said. Now you also have to remember that if you do contest these things in a situation where a reading is produced to the court, and you do try to contest the charge, the guard's evidence, the court will put more weight on it, because you're talking about a trained Garda doing his duty at a time where he did not have alcohol taken, as against the person's evidence who will have to accept that they had some level of alcohol taken at the time, and their recollection of events may not be as clear as that of the guard.